Jimbo's Garage.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Jimbo's Garage. Well, in today's video, we're going to be making another gate. Just like all the gates that come out of the shop right here, it's just a little bit different. This one is a little medieval time type of look, you might say. It's going to be about 4 feet wide, about 6 foot tall. We're going to have an arch top to it. We're going to have a handful of these buttons or rivets or whatever you want to call it. We're going to have a viewing window in it. A little bit of wood, a little bit of metal. It's going to be a great little project. Let's get started on today's video. Alright, I'd like to take a moment to thank today's sponsor, which is metalsupermarkets.com. They've got over 80 locations across North America, offering up a wide variety of metal types, shapes, sizes, and grades. From steel, aluminum, cold rolled, hot rolled, galvanized alloys, brass, bronze, copper, and a whole lot more. Check them out at metalsupermarkets.com for a location near you. Alright, let's get back to today's video.
Alright, so we're going to get started with some 1x2 by 063 rectangular tubing. That's what we're going to be using for the basic frame of this. You know, I got a little bit of problem with my workbench here with my cutoff saw here. I just don't have enough room. And anytime that I'm cutting any longer material, I've got to swing it out with a rest out on the end. I don't know, one of these days I'm going to have to do something about that. But anyways, I got everything cut up that I needed right there. And then this is a pre-cut, or pre-bent, I should say, radius piece that I had my metal supply store do. I don't have a roller, so anytime I get radiuses like this, I just have them roll it for me. I'm just doing some layout right here and be sure I get the angles just right. It's not a 45. It's not any kind of particular degree right here based on the radiuses. They're always different. So once I established it, at least as close as I could, I just went ahead and cut it right out, the cutoff wheel here. You know, once you just lay it out and you mark it, they just come right off. It cuts off really nice. A little deburr with a flap disc, and then it's assembly time. Just clamping everything down with some fixture clamps to the welding table, and this is just the basic frame, and then I'm going to get this thing squared up, and it's just right on the money right out of the chute, like always, man. I'm telling you, this table, I can't say enough about this. Alright, so I'm just going to go to the outside of this, weld it as much as I can on this side right here. I'm going to tip it up. You know, I couldn't get those cut. You know, it's just as much as I try to do all the math and get everything right and get the angles right, I can never seem to. There's always a big gap somewhere, and that's what I ended up with right here on this radius. I'm trying to tie it in, and it was just a big gap. So this is the way I solved it. I just took some 1/8 filler rod, and then I just laid it in there and just kind of filled that gap, and yeah, that worked out all right, I guess. All right, I'm just getting the lockbox installed right here. You know, these lockboxes here are pretty cool. Been using these a lot over the last couple of years. I get them at kingmetal.com. They're a big supplier of all kinds of iron. You see all the decorative irons that I use for my gates. It all comes from kingmetal.com. There's about 3 locations here around the United States. Anyways, just getting everything welded in right here. And now, you know, I got this designed. The client gave me a couple of pictures, and they just said, hey, you know, we want something that kind of looks like this, you know, or however you think it should look. They basically put it in my hands and said, just design something that is going to look cool. So this is kind of, I'm just kind of going off of a basic picture, and this is my own design. This is what I'm coming up with right here. All right, this is the viewing window or speaking window, whatever you want to call it. It's called a lot of different things. And the next thing is what I'm thinking is to build a box around this, and then I'll be able to weld that, you know, screen or whatever you want to call it, that grate to the front of the box. You know, sometimes making just a simple little box like this, it's just as much as making the frame itself. I'm over to the Burger King after I got all my pieces cut up and just kind of deburring the pieces. Alright, over to the welding table, and I get my table dogs right here and just fasten everything into place. And I'm going to start off with a 90 degree, and we're going to get this thing tacked. And like I said, you know, it's just a small little simple frame, but it may as well be a giant frame because it's the same amount of welding that's involved. Alright, so it didn't take too much. I had to move things around here a little bit to get this thing square, to get it nice and square anyway. Couple little taps, and we're good to go. All right, once I'm all going, get everything welded, every little piece welded all the way around, inside and out. And there it fits on there pretty good. All right, so now it's time to just get this thing grinded up and clean up the edges and soften everything up and grind everything down, you know. So everything is coming together here pretty good. I did have a little bit of a glitch right here, though.
Okay, so I got just a little bit of a problem here. I was just getting ready to finish my bracing here on the gate after I'd finished my viewing window or speaking window, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people call it different things. And I got to looking at it, and it just, to me, looks proportionally too big for what we have going on here with this gate. It just didn't look right. It just looked too big. You know, the client, they had showed me a picture of a gate that they liked, and it happened to have one of these in it. And I didn't pay too close attention. The picture was kind of far away. But when I was in my metal supply store, I saw this, and I thought, this was it. This is what I'm going to use. This is what I'm going to get. And now that I've got it here and I've got it built, it just doesn't look right. So I'm changing things up a little bit. So I'm getting rid of this. And I'm coming in with this. A little bit smaller. This is about 10 inches square. The other one's about 14 inches square. It looks to be a little bit more proportionally correct for what we got going here. I saw this on Amazon, ordered it, next day delivery. I have it. So we're just going to take over from this position right here, and we're going to move forward and get this thing finished up. So let's do it.
Yeah, that was a lot better. It felt better anyway, you know, a little bit smaller and looking a little bit like it should, I guess. All right, here we go. I'm just getting the centerpiece in. Again, I'm building this just the way I think it should be built. This is one of the ways it would work to hold that box into place. And I thought it looked pretty nice. I have a cross piece going across the lockbox there, and then I got this piece going vertically up and down the center. And it's starting to look pretty good. Use a string line right here and making some marks to get everything lined up nice and square. And man, look at all the clamps I got. You know, like I said, I can't even. I know I mention this in every video, but man, having a welding table like this and all these fixture clamps to hold everything in place and snug and down tight like this, I don't know what I did without it before. I feel very blessed to be able to have this table and have this clamps and the way everything works. It makes things a lot easier in the fabrication, that's for sure. Ton of clamps, we got them all off and everything is nice and square and straight. And now it's time to just weld everything all up, flipping it all around. I am working off the HTP ProPulse 220 MTS here today. And I'm running some 30 thousandths wire. And I'm running about 20 CFH. 90% argon, 10% CO2. All right, once you get everything all grinded down here, or welded up, I'm just going to grind the visible areas, the ones I can anyway. Usually that's always on the outside edge. And, you know, one thing too I wanted to point out to you guys when you go ahead and doing this, to be sure that you get all your welds welded up solid. You don't want to have any rust or deterioration coming through there later. All right, so this is some 2-inch flat bar stock, 1/8 inch thick, and this is what I'm going to be using for the outside, or I should say the front face of the gate. We're going to give it that illusion that it's a 2-inch square tubing, and it's going to allow me to have that you know, 1-inch reveal on the inside, and this is what the wood is going to be going up against, and you'll get a better feel for it here. You can see that that's what I'm doing. Remember, the rail is only 1 inch wide by 2 inches deep, and you can see that this is the 2-inch flat bar going on the front, and that's going to give us that look of being a 2-inch square tube. And on the outside, it's going to give me a 1-inch reveal to the inside, and then the center piece right there is 1-inch tubing. I'm going to straddle that, and it's going to be 1/2 inch on either side of that. Should be enough to hide the wood in there and be able to fasten it down to. All right, just getting all the pieces here cut in there, clamped down, and tacked into place. I am going to later on flip it around the other side, and I'm going to get some welds on the inside of that plate as well. Once again, massive clamps, everything clamping everything into position right here. This is one thing that I did right here. I probably, you know, would do it a little bit different next time. So this box, the interior box right here, you can see I straddled that 2-inch flat bar right over the center and gave me a 1/2 inch either side of that when I could have held it to the outside of that and had a smooth transition on the inside of the box. But, oh well, nevertheless, it worked out pretty good. All right, here is the top piece that I need to create the radius for, and what I'm doing is just cutting some relief in this. You know, I'm just using right now I'm using the width of the saw blade about every 3 inches apart, and I'm going, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through or a little bit more maybe. And I'm going to ultimately get this in the vise and kind of close that gap up, and I'm not certain at this point whether or not I'm going to be able to if it's going to be enough. I may have to open those up a little bit, but I got to start somewhere. So that's where I started, and I got a little bit of a bend out of it, got a little bit of a radius, but it just wasn't quite enough. I had to come back and open it up, and I'm just using that with a cutoff wheel right here and just getting in the same saw cuts there. And after I closed them up, I'm just you know, opening it up a little bit wider, and this should be enough for me to close it up and make that radius that I need. And that's looking pretty good. I think I'm going to get it with this one right here. And there it is. All right. I'm going to mark either side right here. I'm going to get this thing cut and get this last piece into position. You know, I'm still working with this 10 tooth per inch blade. It's missing a few tooth. It's banging around here and there. I think we're getting close to the end right here. I'll be able to change that to the 14 tooth. That 14 tooth worked a lot better. And just, you know, about every 6 inches, just a little bump tack. Right now, I'm just trying to get this thing held into place. And these are the last couple pieces right here. All right, so now everything is all tacked in. I'm just going to go around on this side right here while I've got it gated on this side. And I'm just going to get everything welded and all the way around. And once I got all that done, oh, I forgot about the lockbox right here. I need to get a little something around that. You'll see me get to that here in a minute. Ended up getting some flat, some 1/2 inch flat bar stock, and I just went ahead and just welded that around the outside edge. That's going to allow that wood to get in there, be able to get concealed like the rest of it. Sometimes you just have to improvise and do whatever you have to do to make things work. I forgot about this, but it worked out pretty good. All right, now it's just going around and getting everything welded out, finished up the welding there. You know, there's a lot of it. And, you know, there's a lot of detail that goes into something like this. You just don't realize it. You know, when I think about building a gate, I just don't think about all this detail right here. All right, you can see right there, cleaning out the nozzle. Now, I do have this stuff from CRC. It's from their Weld Aid line. It's called Nozzle Dip HD. Stuff's pretty good. I've been using it for the last couple months, and I'm telling you, you just one dip of that stuff, and you can weld all day long, and there's no buildup in the nozzle at all. It's actually some pretty cool stuff. Kind of messy there at first, coming out kind of gooey, but hey, it's well worth it. Man, it saves you getting a pick and pick your nozzle out clean all the time. You can see I'm just welding up. These are the saw cuts. We're getting these things all welded out, and I'm going to be coming back and grinding all that. And the idea is to not be able to see anything and just think that that's all just part of the frame. All right, so I'm just going around and I'm just going to start grinding all this down now. You know, I go through a series of different flap discs right here. You know, these are all Mercer products, and this particular one I'm starting out on this right here is a 29 grit trimmable flap disc. This is ceramic, and this is a good one. I use this a lot, and it does a great job going around roughing things up. And then later I'll usually come back with a 60 or a 120 grit. Now here you see me flipping over to a 24 grit zirconia. Now this one here really hogs and moves some metal quickly. And I had a lot of grinding ahead of me on that radius right there, and I just wanted to get a good flap disc in there that was just going to remove some metal fast, and that's what this one does right here. And I will, like I said, I will go back after I get everything all ground. I will go back with the 60 or even a 120 to remove the scratches. These things leave some pretty aggressive scratches in the metal, and you know, if you go to those you know, smoother flap discs, it takes those scratches out. Makes it better for the paint. You don't see those scratches through the paint. All right, here's what I was talking about. Just going through here, and I'm just hitting some 1/2-inch tacks about every 4 or 5 inches apart right here on the inside. This is to hope that the metal is not going to, come apart or peel away. I just got a little bit on the outside, and this is going to be the inside. It's going to definitely hold everything nice and solid. It's a bunch of welding, though. That's why everything is fast forwarded here. If I couldn't imagine this being real time. This thing really actually took me, 3 or 4 days to build, and I'm not getting 8 hours a day, in my shop here. I do have a regular job, so I'm able to work at this in the evening time. But you can just see all the weld and all the detail that goes into it. All right, so I got to get over my plasma cutter here. It's time to address the flap or the lid for the viewing window or speaking window, and I'm just cutting me out a little square piece right here. That's what's going to get started. Plasma cutter's been working pretty good. I've had it here for about 2 or 3 years now, and you can see those are my torch lead holders in the background. I've been cutting them out there. It looks like it is time to change some consumables. Took a couple of taps to get that out of there. I'm over to my scrap bin here and just pulling some stuff out because I got to try to figure out how this is all going to go together. Again, this is just a bunch of detail that you don't think about. This is just a little piece of piano hinge here, and I've got some that 1/2-inch flat bar stock I've got to weld on to the one side of it there, and that's going to give me that space that I need to get on there. A little construction calculator right there, just giving me all the angles and dimensions that I need, and it's just trying to put together a handle and a latch system that, I don't know. There's 1,000 ways of doing this, and this is just something that I thought of at the last second. May not be what you think about, but, I had to make a decision here. I had to move forward, and this is what I come up with. All right, I'm just drilling this out, and then I'm going to put this in here. And again, this is just the handle. This is what's going to lift this thing up. Now, realistically, this is more of a something that's decorative, and it's probably not going to get much use. But hey, the idea is there, and the purpose is there, and it actually works. All right, so I'm clamping the hinge in place. Yeah, you see me using these little clamps right here. I've got this from Clamp Plus. I've got a couple of them. These things are pretty cool. When the bigger ones can't get into the tight spots like that, these little ones are really handy. It's about a 1/4 of an inch round bar stock on the end, fully adjustable to whatever you need, and it's perfect for holding stuff like this in place. All right, there was a bunch of work right there, but hey, there it is. It's on and it's done. I had to come up with a latch of some sort. Again, I thought about it for a long time, and I just wear myself out thinking about stuff. And this is just a simple little thing. This is what I come up with, and it's going to work. Just some final touches right here, grinding everything up and cleaning it all up. I'm going to drill and tap this. I believe I was just using a 1/4-20 right here. Found a little bolt in there, and that's all I really need to kind of hold this in place. Like I said, I don't think it's going to get used much. It's more of a decoration than anything, but it is functional at this point. All right, and here it is. I think as I mentioned that go through the discs. This is some final grinding here. I don't know if this is 60 or 120, but whatever it is, I'm just going through and kind of cleaning up everything and buffing everything out, getting ready for the next stage right here, which is staining the wood. Now I chose to go with some 1x6 clear redwood here, tongue and groove, and looking for some real dark stain. This is what I come up with, and this stuff stained up really nice. It's just the color that we were looking for here. And this wood is super lightweight, and so it's you can go. It's going to give you that appearance. It's a heavy-duty gate, but at the same time, nice and lightweight. And this gate really is not that heavy when it's all assembled and hung up there. And this stuff worked out pretty good. I used something similar to this on a couple videos back, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago on a gate. I used not redwood, I used clear cedar though. One thing I forgot to do is get the little grate welded on the front right here, and while that wood was drying, stain was drying, I took advantage of that. Got that all on and ground everything down here. All right, so for the clear coat, I'm just using some polyurethane. This is some well, I guess it's spar urethane. I don't know the difference. I just read the outside of things. It said this is exterior, Yeah, good use for some exterior. So I got a couple of good coats on there. This is some semi-gloss. And put a couple of good coats on there, both sides, and it gave it that not a glossy finish, but got a little sheen to it, and that's pretty cool. All right, I got a lot of people ask me about painting. How do you paint it? What do you do? Well, in this particular case, I'm obviously priming it, and I'm rolling the primer on and I'm rolling the paint on. Now this just adds for some really thick paint, and you can assure that it's a lot different than spraying the paint on. And of course, powder coating is probably the best way to go. But in this situation, I'm looking for a rustic look, and by rolling the paint on, it gives you that little bit of an old rustic type of look. All right, so we're time to get the wood installed here. Things are starting to take shape, and a couple things I've got to measure here and mark and get everything fit in there that it's going to work and look evenly on both sides of the gate right here. I barely had enough wood to make this happen. I mean, I literally was down to 1/4 of an inch in length. I underestimated that, but I was able to make it work here. I'm sticking some tape on here, and I'm numbering these things the same because ultimately they're going to get cut in half, and I wanted to keep the grain going in the same direction. So I wanted to be sure I matched the two pieces of wood up so they looked like it was all the same together. I thought about doing this, and then I realized, oh, if I get them mixed up, they're going to look different. So this is the way I did it, by numbering them and taping them. And then I'm just using my jigsaw to cut the radius part out. A little bit of aggressive blade here. It had a little bit of tear out right there, but it's not to worry because it's going to be covered up by that overlap of the flat bar, the 2-inch flat bar stock there. And then just drop them into place right here and line up the numbers. That there was a little bit of a gap issue. I knew I was going to have something there. So this right here is, I just had to rip an extra little piece I had. This is about 5/8 of an inch, and I'm cutting them about 3 or 4 inches long. They're just little spacers that are going to fit right in there, and that's going to push everything nice and snug over and tight and keep it consistent. Doing the same, repeating the same process here on the other side, exactly the same. You want everything to be the same. I'm going to end up using those same spacers on this side as well, and that's going to make it look nice and even. And just like that, they're in there, and then there's those spacers. All right, it's coming together pretty good. All right, so we're using some 3/4 inch angle iron right here, and this is what we're going to be using to hold it in place. And if you've watched my other videos, you've seen this is the way I've done it in the past. Basically, you just put that in there on the back side, and I'm going to pre-drill all these. I'm using some self-tapping screws, but still I like to pre-drill everything. It just makes it that much easier. I'm using the same method right here on the radius part. Now this is a 3/4 angle, so this blade right here, because it's only 3/4 of an inch, I'm not going to have any problem making the radius on this one. And like I said, this is what I'm doing. I'm pre-drilling all the parts. Each part's going to, have, screws in them. And the screws, I don't know, like they're about 1 foot apart or so. You don't need a lot of them. It's just something to hold it down. And the beauty of this is, by doing this, is in case you get a board that goes bad or you want to replace the boards, you can just take the screws out and all the boards will come out and you can replace it with, whatever, same stuff or something different. So that's the beauty of this. And that's kind of the way it goes, just like that. You can see I'm just laying them in there, just kind of covering everything up. And now this is the same process all the way around the gate. So any of that little tear out that I had, it gets covered up right here. Here's a little tip right here. I learned this the hard way. I've got a piece of cardboard down doing the drilling right there. In the past, I've done this, and I've gotten some chuck marks on the wood and scuffed up the wood on the inside before. But this piece of cardboard here worked pretty good. These are just some self-tapping 1/2 inch pan head screws. And that's really all it takes to hold these things into place. Now you can imagine there's a lot of this going on. A lot of screwing, a lot of drilling right here. But ultimately it worked out pretty good. I just clamped everything in place. And by clamping everything in place, what that does is it pushes the wood down. For one, keeps it nice and tight up against the other side. And then just holds it in place. So I got right down to the very end right here. Now what I've got here, these are these, I don't know, they're rivets or nails, whatever you want to call them. They're rustic looking. Now they came with about 1.5 inch spike on them. And so what I'm doing here is, you can see I got a tape on my drill. I'm drilling them down about 1/2 inch, and I cut these things off to about 1/2 inch. Drilled a small little pilot hole in there, and then I'm just pounding these nails in. Now, this is one way of doing it. You know, there's another way of doing it too. There's several probably ways of doing it, but another way would be maybe drill a little bit larger of a hole and get some 2-part epoxy, and you can put them in that way too. That does seem to work pretty good. I did a test sample, and it seemed to hold really well, and so this is the way I elected to go with it. Again, this is just decorative stuff, and you know, it just really makes the gate right here. There's that extra added beauty to it. You know, I got these on Amazon. You know, you know, they've got all kinds of stuff there as well. King Metals had something similar, but a little bit bigger. This is actually the size I was looking for, and with these spikes on here, that worked out a little bit better for me on this situation. And this is going along here pretty good. You know, this is a good little build right here. It was fun. It's always something different here in the shop. You know, and that's what makes it fun. You know, there's never the same thing twice. You're always doing something different, and a lot of times I'm having to design and create this stuff myself, and that's just the fun of it right there. Good little project, turned out good. This is probably one of the better gates that I've done in a long time, and I can't wait to see what's up next. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't forget to check out my website at JIMBO'sGarage.com for your torch lead holders and merchandise there. Check us out on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you guys on the next video.
See you next time on Jimbo's Garage.